Hey, welcome here. We have a lore of Warcraft first coming up. We've done a lot of things so far on the show. We just had the 70th episode posted. Um, in that time, we spent a lot of time on Chronicles, probably a good, 80% of the way through that pretty big book. We started a little bit of the Rise of the Horde, realized, oh wait, that actually happens after that first chapter. That happens all right before the end of year zero. So we got to come back to that. And we've been reading this book for now 24 or so episodes. This is the last episode of this book, so for the first time ever on this show, we're making history. We're going to finish an entire book. All right, so Chapter 24, last one. I think it's a bit of a shorty. Set us up for the sequel in our next book. So stay a while and listen, even if it's just a little while today. Chapter 24. He lay as still as death, that image made all the worse by the fact that none of them could sense any trace of the link they had once had with him. Tyrande nestled Malfurion's head in her lap, the soft grass underneath acting as the rest of his bed. "Is he lost to us?" asked a perplexed Gerald Shadowsong. The captain had accompanied the group out to this location far in the woods, ostensibly to keep an eye on his prisoner Krasis. He had not played a role in their spell work, but had instead ended up acting as guard when the situation had changed. He had grown from reluctant addition to concerned companion, even though he still understood little of what had taken place. "No," Tyrande snapped. In a more apologetic tone, she added, "He can't be." "He does not smell dead," rumbled Corielstrasz. Judge Shadowsong looked askance each time Corielstrasz spoke. He had yet to grow used to the presence of the Red Dragon. It might have amused Tyrande at one time, but not under the present circumstances. She herself had quickly come to accept the behemoth, especially since she sensed some hidden relationship between Corielstrasz and Krasis. They seemed almost like brothers or twins. Last episode we talked about story threads. That's another one. The time thread, and how that's going to wrap up between these two. Thinking of twins made her gaze down at Malfurion again. Krasis paced the area. He seemed much healthier now, and the young priestess had noted that the effect had magnified when he had come within sight of the dragon. Unfortunately, that health did not help the pale figure now, for he appeared as worried as she did about Malfurion, even though Krasis had clearly never met him before seeing the night elf in the temple. Brox knelt across from Tyrande, his axe placed next to his stricken friend. The orc's head was buried in his chest as she could hear him muttering what sounded like a prayer. "The area was charged with powerful magical forces," murmured Krasis to himself. "It could have dispersed parts of his dream self to every corner of the world. He might be able to regather himself, but the odds of that." Captain Shadowsong looked around at the others. "Forgive this impertinent question, but did he at least accomplish what he hoped to?" The cowled figure turned to him, expression flat. "He did do that at least. I pray it is enough." "Stop talking like that," Tyrande insisted. She wiped a tear from her eye, then gazed up at the sunlit sky. Despite the brightness, Tyrande refused to look away. "Elune, Mother Moon, forgive this servant for disturbing your rest. I do not dare ask for him to be returned, but at least give us an answer as to his fate." But no glorious light shone down on Malfurion. The moon did not suddenly appear and speak to them. "Perhaps it would be better if we brought him back to the temple," suggested the guard captain. "Maybe she can hear him better there." Tyrande did not bother to answer him. Krasis paused in his pacing. He stared to the south where the woods thickened. His eyes narrowed and he pursed his lips in frustration. "I know you are there." "And I now know what you are," returned a booming voice. The nearest trees suddenly melded together, forming a figure with a lower torso akin to that of a huge stag, and a chest, arms, and face more like those of Tyrande and Jared Shadowsong. Fists tight, Cenarius moved slowly toward the band. He and Krasis matched gazes for a time, then both nodded in respect. The Forest Lord walked over to where Tyrande held Malfurion. Brox respectfully stepped out of the way while the guard captain stared open-mouthed from where he stood. "Daughter of my dear Elune, your tears touch the heaven and the earth." "I cry for him, my lord, one you also loved." Cenarius nodded. His forelegs bent in a kneeling motion, and he touched Malfurion's forehead ever so gently. "He is a son to me, and so I am pleased that he has one like you who also holds him so near." We've been friends since childhood." The Forest Lord chuckled, a sound that brought songbirds near, and made a cool, refreshing breeze caress the cheeks of each in the party. Yes, I heard your pleas to dear Loon, both the spoken and unspoken ones. Tyrande did not hide her embarrassment. But all my entreaties have been for nothing. His expression turned to one of honest puzzlement. Did you think that? Why would I come, then? The others froze. The novice priestess shook her head. I don't understand. Because you are young still. Wait until you reach my age. With that, Cenarius opened his left hand. An emerald light rose from his open palm. It floated a few inches above, as if orienting itself. Rising, the demigod stepped back to observe his student. I walked the Emerald Dream, seeking answers to our many terrible questions. I hunted through there, looking for what could be done about these followers of death. A gentle smile crossed his bearded visage. And imagine my surprise when I found one I knew drifting in the Emerald Dream, but in a very dazed and much confused state. Why, he didn't even know himself, much less me. And as Cenarius finished, the light drifted over to Malfurion, sinking harmlessly into his head. The Night Elf's eyes opened. Malfurion! Tyrande's voice was the first thing that registered with Malfurion, and he quickly seized upon it, using it as a tether, a lifeline. He pulled himself from the abyss of unconsciousness toward a bright but comforting light, and when he opened his eyes, it was to see Tyrande under the morning sun. Surprisingly, the daylight did not bother him, and he even thought that it revealed to him a Tyrande so beautiful he could not at first believe it. He almost told her, but then the presence of the others made him shut his feelings inside again. He settled for touching her hand, then acknowledging the others. The shield. His voice sounded like that of a frog. Is it? Gone, replied a figure who was and was not a night elf. To Malfurion, surely this had to be Krasis. For now, the Burning Legion has been held in check, at least in one place. Malfurion nodded. He knew that the war was not over, that his people still faced annihilation, yet that did not take away from the knight's triumph. If nothing else, there was still hope. We will fight them, Tyrande promised. We will save our world. They can be beaten, agreed Brox, brandishing proudly the weapon that the young druid had helped create. This I know. Krasis remained pragmatic. They can, but we will need more help. We will need the dragons. You'll need more than the dragons, Cenarius bellowed, and I go now to see to that. He stepped from the others, but gave Malfurion one last smile. You've made me proud, my Theroshan, my honored student. Thank you, Shando. He watched as the demigod melted back into the trees. Do we return to Ceramon now? Asked a figure in a guard officer's uniform. Malfurion could not place him, but assumed the others had a reason for him being here. Yes, said Krasis, we return to Ceramon. With Tyrande's help, Malfurion rose. But only for a short time. The portal through which the demons flowed was destroyed, but unlike the shield, the Highborn can remake it easily. More will come, I'm afraid. Despite his wish otherwise, no one disagreed. Malfurion looked to the direction of Zinjarad. A terrible evil had come to his land, one that had to be stopped before it could raise all in its path. Malfurion had helped in great part to stop the Burning Legion's initial advance, and for reasons he could not himself explain, he did not doubt that it would somehow fall to him again to assist in keeping the invading demons from destroying his beloved Kalimdor. Malfurion only prayed that when that time came, he would be found ready to face them, or else not only Kalimdor, but the entire world risked obliteration. And as it says, this is now continued in War of the Ancients Book 2, which is called the Demon Soul. I think the Demon Soul is something referred to a lot in World of Warcraft. Makes me think of the game Demon Souls. I know the Dragon Soul is. So, yeah, they beat back the initial advance. Really, it definitely, like, this is not a contained story. Like, this couldn't be a standalone because there's a lot more still to happen. I think there were some decent parts. I like the camaraderie. I do like this experience with Malfurion, Tyrande, Illidan. I don't know who Brox and Ronan are. I get the sense that they're made just for this book. It's neat to see this detailed first-hand account in depth of what we know is going to happen based on chronicles. All right, guys, I look forward to starting the next book for you. Thank you for riding this journey through the end of one whole book with me. You made it this far. You're a trooper. We have a little about the author here. I guess we'll read it. If it's duplicated in the next books, we'll skip it the next time. But it says Richard A. Nake is the New York Times and USA Today best-selling author of some 50 novels and numerous shorter works. He has written for such well-known series as World of Warcraft, Diablo. I didn't even know they had books for that. Dragonlance. I'm a huge Dragonlance fan. I've read all of the old ones and some of the new ones. Once it got to Fifth Age, I kind of dropped off, but I read some of those too. Conan and Pathfinder. I know what those are, but I don't dip too much into either. And is the creator of the long-running popular epic fantasy saga, The Dragon Realm. Don't know what that is. Can't be that popular. He has also written comic, manga, and gaming material, and his works have been translated worldwide. I recognize the name. Another episode in the pipes, 5x5. Thanks, everybody. Tune in to the next episode of Lore of Warcraft to start the second book.